Hi guys, last night I made this steak and Pipian, a lovely grilled ribeye steak covered in a rich, thick, mildly spiced Mexican sauce. This is an ancient Mexican sauce that's best made a week ahead of time. Start off with an oven-proof container and add about 100 grams of pumpkin seeds to it, followed by about 50 grams of sesame seeds. Then transfer it to a preheated oven at 200 degrees Celsius for about 10 to 15 minutes until they're toasted. In the meantime, take a large frying pan to do your dry roasting. Start with one corn tortilla. You can use one that's kind of broken up here, one that's too damaged for tacos. Followed by a small stick of cinnamon, probably about 4 inches here. Then 3 of these dried ancho chilies. These don't have a whole lot of heat, but have a lot of smoky flavour. I'm just going to cut off the woody stems and add them in. Next, break off 2 cloves of garlic and add them into the pan with the skin on. Leaving the skins on will allow them to roast and toast in the pan without actually burning. It'll just be the skins that burn. Now you need half an onion. I'm using a red onion, but use whatever one you want. Just peel it and chop half of it into thick slices before you add it to the pan. Along with 2 fresh red tomatoes. Just add them into the pan, but take off any vines or leaves beforehand. Now take the pan over to the hob to dry roast everything. Before you do that though, it's probably about time you took out the pumpkin seeds and the sesame seeds and just leave them there to cool while you get on with your dry roasting. Do this by placing your pan of ingredients over a really high heat, and you want them all to scorch and kind of burn. This will actually take quite a while and it'll take a different amount of time for each ingredient. Just keep an eye on it and turn things over constantly until you get the right amount of caramelization. I removed the ancho chilies first, followed by the tortilla, and keep a good eye on the onions because they're so full of sugar, they're really likely to caramelize and burn, so just get them when they're just starting to brown. The tomatoes might look burnt when you flip them, but trust me, that's just the right amount of charring that you want. The really watery liquid flesh underneath will stop the burning from going any deeper. Take out that cinnamon stick once it becomes aromatic, and continue to try to get those charred marks on all sides of the tomatoes. This will take a bit of patience because it's hard to kind of balance the tomatoes on their sides, but just be persistent. This will take a while, but trust me, the more charred they are, the more flavour they'll have. Once you're happy with them, just take them off and set them aside as well. Now you need to take those toasted ancho chilies and just crack them in half and soak them in a bowl of boiling water. Not too much boiling water, you just want to cover them and leave them soaking for 15 minutes. If you want to save time, you can do this while the tomatoes are roasting. As they were soaking, I made up 500 milliliters of chicken stock, by which I mean I added 1 stock cube to a jug and filled it up with 500 milliliters of boiling water. I stirred it up and set it aside. Then I took the large jug for my NutriBullet and gently squeezed out the now plumped up ancho chilies and added them to it. Followed by a little bit of the steeping liquid, but saved the rest, I needed it later. Next I added the dry roasted tomatoes, the toasted corn tortilla, the dry roasted onion. Now squeeze out the dry roasted garlic clove from its skin. This should be really easy. And just add the clove to the blender as well. Add the stick of cinnamon. The NutriBullet can handle this, but if your blender can't, then you might need to use a spice grinder. And make sure you add all those resting juices from the roasted vegetables. They pack so much flavour. Finally, tip in the now cooled, toasted pumpkin seeds and sesame seeds. Then I just fixed the blade on the cup and blitzed until it was all nice and pureed. This did get a bit stuck for me because it was a little too thick to blend, so I then stopped it and added the rest of the resting juices from the ancho chilies and a little bit of that chicken stock and blitzed until it was really nice and smooth. Then I took a large frying pan with a tight fitting lid and heated a tablespoon or 2 of olive oil in it until it became really nice and hot, and then I poured in the blitzed chili mixture. That was still way too thick, so I added the rest of my chicken stock to my blender cup, swirled it all around, and then added that to the pan as well. Then just stir it up until it's all nice and incorporated and smooth and velvety, and bring it to the boil. Then add a really generous amount of sea salt flakes, probably about a teaspoon at least, and a really good generous grinding of freshly ground black pepper. Now this sauce will be delicious right now, but it'll be even better if you make it a day in advance, and it'll be better still if you make it a week in advance. Just make sure to bring it to the boil every day it's sitting out so that it won't go off. You will definitely want to thin this out with more liquid. I suggest starting with the juice of 1 lime. And then if you need more after that, throughout the next week, you could add more chicken stock to loosen it out and make sure that it's still really nice and velvety. I probably did add another 500 milliliters of stock throughout that week. Then, on the day of serving, just bring it to the boil again and stir it up to make sure it's all completely smooth. Then give it a taste to make sure that the seasoning is okay, and if it's not, you can add more sea salt flakes. Now, I would serve this at the table in a jug or gravy boat rather than bringing this big pan to the table. For the steaks, I have 3 ribeyes that need to have been resting out of the fridge for an hour before cooking. Because I'm cooking these on a grill pan, I'm oiling the meat instead of the grill pan because that would really smoke up terribly. Next, I'm sprinkling each steak quite generously with a good pinch of sea salt flakes before adding a generous grinding of freshly ground black pepper. Now flip the steaks over and repeat on the other side. Once that's done, take them over to the hob to be grilled. Heat your grill pan over a really high heat and make sure it's screaming hot before you add on your steaks. Because I like mine rare, I'm grilling mine for 2 minutes before I flip it for another 2 minutes. My friends like theirs well done, so I'm giving their steaks 4 minutes on each side and I'm taking mine off to rest. After another 4 minutes, I took off the well done steaks, served up and poured over this beautiful Pipian sauce. This was so rich and sweet and mildly spicy. It really goes so well with red meat like steak or duck. Thanks really for watching, guys. I hope you liked this video. If you did, be sure to hit the like and subscribe buttons below. You can check me out on social media if you like. You'll find all the links to my accounts in the description, as well as the link to my blog where you'll find this full recipe at www.rookiecook.org.